All right, welcome everyone. This is our Thursday morning production call. We got a really cool one lined up for y'all today. It's going to be about lead flow, how we're working our leads, how to resolve them, booking your appointments, how to help you book appointments for today and tomorrow, and then how to resolve your lead when it comes to they show up and you're going to pivot and be ready to help that client no matter what, and then getting that yes or no as fast as possible. Because at the end of the day, what we're doing is we're just filtering through our clients, right? Not everyone's going to say yes. We just need to be able to resolve it. You can resolve it either at the dial or in the appointment or right after. But the whole point is you need a yes or a no, because you can't have them lingering just, hey, think about it. So we're going to give you some nuggets on that. First, I love to talk about, right, this is an hour-long call. I want to make sure you get your whole value, pen and notepad, right? We're going to give you a lot of good information. Take down some notes. Do not go change your entire appointment off of what you hear today. Grab a couple of nuggets, right? Just start implementing. Hey, you know what? I can use that. That can help me. All of y'all, most of y'all have already helped a client, right? So you don't need to revamp your entire appointment. You just need to start adding little things to get close as we can, right, to a really good appointment. And then what I humbly ask is if anything you got from our call help the family today, right, or anytime, y'all can post it on Ban. Hey, off of the production call, we got this little nugget and I've been using it and it's helping. Y'all do a really good job of that already, but it continues to help each other. So please, that's what I humbly ask, because it's super helpful as a team that we can get better helping more families. So let's just get started. We get to work on live stuff. And when I say live, these are right things we ask our agents. Hey, what are you struggling at this week, or where can we help you? And these are some of the things that everyone asked for. And also, if you have any questions or any comments or something we can ask you, please feel free to unmute. You don't have to put it in the chat. Feel free to unmute. We want to make sure we answer all our questions as long as it's topic related, so we don't get off track. But we'll get started, right? First, let's go with lead flow. This one, I'll give you all a couple of standard numbers to make sure, right, we don't have too many leads, because if you have too many leads, it becomes harder to resolve them. And then you want to have them in batch sizes. I was just on the deep dive call and they were talking about resolving leads and getting a yes or a no, no matter what. So it was really good. With Omar Diaz, and one of the things again, right, is you got to get a yes or a no and you got to dial them. So one of the biggest things we love to teach, whether you're on a dialer or you're doing it by hand, is 60 leads, right? So write that number down, 60 leads. If you have more than 60 leads at one time, one sit down, it's almost impossible to resolve your leads in the next 4 days. Okay. Now, the really cool part, you can auto correct, right? So if you have, man, Joe, I've bought, right, in the past 2 weeks, I've bought, right, 200 leads because they were the $1.50, whatever they were. You cannot resolve that many leads. You're going to get, what'll end up happening is you'll have tons of dials with either no contacts because they don't know your number, right? And one of the things Omar Diaz was talking about today was, he goes, I only use one number. He goes, I have only ever used one number. He goes, that whole theory of I need to switch numbers and then they need to not see me coming. He's like, I want them to see my number. I want them to see that I'm texting them from the same number and I'm calling them from the same number so that they can see, right, multiple times that this number is trying to get a hold of me. So that was a really cool nugget. Thinking of that, right, is how do I resolve and why 60 leads? So I want y'all to do some math with me because, right, y'all hear us preach all the time. How do I know I did a good day of work? Even though I maybe didn't get an application, but how do I know I did a good day's work? And that's 200 dials, or I booked 6 appointments for tomorrow, right? That's how you know. If you're not hitting those numbers, I'm sorry, you're not doing a good day's worth of effort, right? Because you're not going to get resolved, right? The whole point is we want you to write applications this week, today, right? And it's fighting to get to, right, 200,000. These are full-time agent numbers, right? If you're part-time, you got other stuff going on, don't worry about it, right? But full-time agents, right? I worked all day today, David, right? If I call David and say, hey, David, I worked all day and I'm giving him my numbers and my numbers are 87, 5, and 3, that is not a full day's work. I promise y'all. It's 200 dials or I book 6. It can sound like, hey, David, I have CIA leads and I dialed 65 dials, talked to 10 people, and I booked 7. It's a great day's work. I have, right, more than my 6 appointments for tomorrow. I have bonus leads. David, I dialed 235 dials today. I talked to 20 people and I booked 8. Another good day's work, right? Like you just got it right wherever it is, either 200 dials or 6 appointments, right? Sometimes if you're working our older bonus leads, right, you're going to be at, hey, I dialed 253 dials. I talked to 12 people and I got 3 appointments. Still did good because you were over the 200 dial marker, right? Like that's how you know you're going to find success. I promise you. Like there's just no way around it. You're going to talk to enough people to help somebody. Now, knowing those stats, I love to go over the 60 dials or the 60 leads, right? Why I coach don't have more than 60 leads at one sitting, because you can't go through that many leads. Okay. We teach you to go through your leads once in the morning, the entire batch, right? You want to get a hold of them early in the morning. And then you want to go at least one more time in the evening, right? That way, if they work in the morning, you get to hit them in the evening. If they work in the evening, you get to hit them in the morning, right? But just simple math, right? If I have 60 leads and I triple dial them, that would be 180 dials. Now, some folks pick up on the first or second dial. So let's just go down to 150 dials. So I went through my entire batch of 60 leads in the morning. I'm already at 150 dials. Now, I'm going to say we resolved a couple of them, right? A couple of people told us no. Maybe I booked 1 or 2. So now going into it in the evening, I maybe have 50 leads I got to go through. 50 times 3, right, is 150. Let's say, right, some of them pick up, that's 120. So now I'm talking about 150 plus 120. I'm knocking on the door of 300 dials in a day. Y'all got to understand that math, because if you have 60 leads, if you're working bonus leads or any kind of leads, if you're not dialing at that level, you're leaving a lot of money, a lot of ROI, right? And what Omar was teaching today, right, is you're just not getting a hold of them. He goes, our job is as simple as we got to spark a conversation, and you have to get to that client, right? So I love to give you all that perspective, right? Because we talk to a lot of agents and they're like, hey, I have 40, 60 leads. I dialed all day, but I did good, Joe. I dialed 120 dials, 150 dials for the day. And right, I just want y'all to do the math, right? That means if you're under 200 and you have 60 leads, I can almost promise you did not traffic your leads enough today, because you more than likely didn't go through that whole batch in the morning and the whole batch in the evening. And what ends up happening, why that's so important, because if you go through your leads, let's say I dial 100 dials at least every single day, and I put up 500 dials for the week, David. It sounds amazing, right? But let me tell you, on the other side of you dialing, what that looks like. If I have 60 leads and I dial them Monday, let's say Saturday, right? Let's go through the whole routine. If I have 60 leads and I picked up the phone Saturday morning and I went through 100 dials, because that's what I had time for, right? That means I didn't even go through all 60 of my leads. So let's say 10, 15 of them I didn't even call. Monday shows up and I get back on the phone, and most of us either on a dialer or we like to have our stacked organized, and we're either going to start from the top again. And if I only dial 100 dials today, I maybe don't even get to those 15 again. Or let's say I did good administrating on my leads and I started with the 15 I didn't dial. I hit those first, but then again, I'm going to leave a batch that I didn't touch on Monday. What does that look like, right? And you do that 3 more times, right? For the rest of the week, yes, you put up 500 dials, but what does it look like for the other client? Karen, if you had turned in a lead, that means somebody called you one time, somebody triple dialed you on a Saturday morning. You didn't pick up because you were right out, eating breakfast, whatever it may be. You didn't receive a phone call Monday. Maybe you received one on Tuesday, if not on Wednesday. That's what it looks like for the client on the other side. for anyone that's dialing 100 dials on bonus leads. And that's how come sometimes it can get frustrating. Like, man, I'm dialing every day, right? I'm at 100, 120, 150. It's not trafficking your leads. They received one phone call Saturday morning, and maybe they received one on Monday or Tuesday. I want y'all to just think about that, because you're never trafficking them, right? There's no reason they would not remember that phone number. And let's say you did it again, but it took another 2 days. So maybe you rang them on Tuesday and they don't see your phone number again until Thursday. You are just another phone number that shows up whenever on their phone. Now, if you traffic them correctly, right? If you get to go through the lead in the morning and in the evening, Saturday, maybe they didn't pick up. They were still at breakfast. Karen was still at breakfast. You called her. She saw 3 dials. She didn't pick up. But then later in the evening, around 2 o'clock or 4 o'clock, she saw your phone number again. Still didn't answer. It's Saturday. I was watching TV and my phone was in my room. But when she picked up the phone and looked at it, there were 6 missed calls. Like, that's just weird, but whatever. I ain't calling that. I'm sure it's a telemarketer. Monday shows up. I'm at work, but 3 phone calls missed again. And now it's Monday evening and I'm off work and I see this number again. I'm picking up the phone Monday to find out who has called me 4 times already, 12 dials deep. Y'all just have to put that in perspective. And Omar Diaz was talking about that. He goes, you can never get upset or never let your feelings of, hey, I think I'm over dialing. He goes, your job is you're required to get a hold of these clients. He goes, in fact, if I ever have a client pick up the phone upset, like, man, you've been blowing up. He goes, hey, I'm sorry. My company requires me to get a hold of you. I love that. I thought that was great. My company requires me to get a hold of you. I'm just getting a hold of you, the letter you received, and you go into script. I thought that was beautiful. But that is the truth. You are required. Now, here's the cool part. It's not Symmetry. Symmetry is not the company, right? It's the Roberts agency, right? It's the Karen Owens agency, right? It's you are your own company. And your company, because they invested in a lead, requires you to get a hold of that client because you need to be able to resolve them, right? And now if you do that daily, 4 days, usually it takes about 4 days. If you do that consistently, you're hitting them twice a day, you're going to get a resolution. Like, you will resolve 80% of your leads. It's huge. If you do that 4 days back to back, or call them in the morning, call them in the evening, you are going to get a pickup. And someone's going to tell you yes or no. And that is your job. Your job is not to help them right there and then. Your job is to have them pick up the phone and tell you, yes, I need an appointment, or no, I'm not interested anymore.
Hey, Joe, just a quick question there too.
Yeah.
At what point can you know that, okay, you know what, I've done my due diligence and I've dialed these leads enough, right?
And
what is that metric that you use? Is it lead resolution? Is it, I've called them every day, 3 times a day for the past 5 days? How can you know that you've
so
done your job?
Omar does what I do, and I don't stop calling them until I get a yes or a no. They stay on my thing. Now, if you have that kind of activity, you're going to get a yes or a no. The only difference that'll happen is that list, right? Because people will pick up, let's say you start with 60, you do that for 4 days in a row, more than likely by the 4th or 5th day, you only got 10, 15 leads, if that, to resolve. Now, the nice part is you're going to re-up your leads and you're going to start with your new leads, right? You always call your new leads first. And then when you finish that stack, you continue to hit that. And he was talking about, right? So like he goes through his batch of leads today, right? And if he finishes that, he'll go back to last month's and even the months before, right? Like, he does not stop until he gets a yes or a no. He said when he was at third, so he counts every single lead and knows where they're all at. You got to have a system in place. That's why I love the dialer, because the dialer does that for me, right? It starts from the very top, my newest leads, and I'm going to start going through there. But you can do that with paper, however you're doing it. And one of his biggest things was, dude, I know if I got a yes or a no and it's resolved. And he was like, I had 1,300 leads and I had 3 unresolved leads. 3.
Will Funnel end up doing this better than the current switchboard, Joe?
So Switchboard does not do that, right? So switchboard does not filter who you've called or who you
No, it doesn't. I've been keeping it
so,
manually, and
yep. So
it's
you got to be able to have, you got to have some kind of system, right? Switchboard does allow you to create some kind of list and stuff, but you just got to know. I mean, I love
I
how,
get
how Omar said it. Omar said, "This is your business, and you're bringing in inventory, right? We talk about the hamburger meat, and think about this, right? If I'm bringing in hamburger meat, I got to properly rotate it. If not, my business is going to fail because my hamburger meat's going to go bad, and I'm gonna have to throw it away. And
I
it's
just have a quick because right now I'm waiting on my switchboard funnel. I'm using switchboard currently because I joined after Ninja was no longer available. What I do, um, I go into opt, and then after I'm done those phone calls, I go in and I change the lead to no contact, no contact, and I find that's better for me personally. I don't know if that would work for anyone else, just so I know, because I know if I put it on a piece of paper, I might lose that piece of paper or it might get thrown out or something like that. So
Yeah,
is that
all kinds of ways, right? So either you can write all the names on a piece of paper, scratch it out as you resolve it, take it off your switchboard list, right? Because you can filter through it and you can remove them. Just have some kind of system in place, period. Right? Like you got to know where your leads are. When it was before Ninja, I just printed all 60 of my leads out. What I loved about paper leads is once they told me no, crumble that puppy up, it's gone, right? Again, do whatever's going to work for you. But you got to have a system in place, right? And do not let the excuse, this is your own business. Do not let the excuse of I'm not on the dialer yet. I'm on, like, you're investing in leads. You got to, it's simple. It ain't that hard. It's a list of names, resolve it, get rid of it, right? But you got to be able, the biggest thing here, right, is you got to resolve. You need to dial them, right? What I want to teach y'all right now is you got to have the activity in there to get the resolve. If not, you just keep buying leads every single week and you're not resolving. And you'll find yourself, man, I invest every single week, David, but I don't write apps, right? And the two main reasons why an agent fails in the insurance industry, not even just at Symmetry, is not enough activity and they just don't stick to scripts. Y'all just remember that. Like whenever I feel, right, whenever, if you ever feel like, man, I don't know if this is going to work for me. I bet you can either tie it back to you or not following script, or number one reason, you don't have the activity. You didn't give yourself a chance to find success here, right? And anytime, like it doesn't matter what level you're at, we'll go into a slump and we're like, man, I haven't written business in a while. I don't even like. I promise you, just increase your activity, and all of a sudden, apps show up. You're just going to talk to enough people. So just know that. Again, right, rule of thumb, when you're calling them, make sure you're doing a triple dial. And just so I can clarify what a triple dial is, if I got Nathan, he's my lead, I got his phone number, I'm going to call him right now, ring, ring, ring. He doesn't pick up. I wait 5 seconds and I call him literally right back. Ring, ring, ring. He doesn't pick up. I call him one more time, literally right back. 3 times back to back to back. Do not stop. Everyone picks up on the third dial. So it's super important, right? That I can't tell you how many, I think the stats are most folks, I think it's 50% of people pick up after the second dial, and 50% of that 50% is on the third dial. So you are missing almost half of your appointments if you're not doing a triple dial. So make sure those are feelings in your head, right? Like, oh my God, I'm going to call them 3 times and I'm going to do that twice in a day or even 3 times. And yes, you are. They'll pick up and you'll resolve them. I promise you.
And just one quick question. We never leave a voicemail, right?
Never leave a voicemail.
Got it. I haven't, so got it.
Yep. So, and then ideally, right, if you're a brand new agent, you don't have appointments, you should be able to go through your leads 3 times in a day, right? So you would call them in the morning, call them around lunchtime, and then call them again in the evening. Yes, that means you would ring somebody 9 times. The only thing that's going to happen is you're going to resolve that lead. That is your job. Your job is to resolve the lead. You need them to pick up and say yes or no. And then just remember, right, again, how do I know I'm doing right activity? Did I get to $200 or did I book 6 appointments? And one of the biggest things I love to say is that those are minimums, right? Like me and Amber talked about what's possible here. I have seen agents dial 600 dials in a day. What is stopping you from saying, hey, I want an $18,000, $20,000 week? Nothing. Nothing is stopping you from having that kind of ability. It's just, right? Like I look at so many agents, whenever you see anyone post on Band, right? If you see somebody post 150 dials, I talked to 10 people and I booked 5 appointments. The only thing that comes into my head is if you would have dialed 200 dials, you would have talked to 20 people and you would have had 10 appointments. Just think about that. You're double your activity, you're going to have double the results. And usually it even multiplies, right? Because when you start going into those amount of dials, all of a sudden folks are picking up a lot more. You're in your groove, right? Like people are saying yes, left and right. It gets insane. I have done it in front of y'all, right? On a Saturday, I'll go into a crazy dial session. I've booked 23 appointments in a day because you get into the groove and you're just pounding the phone. I'm telling you, the results just show up. Right? You just got to give yourself that opportunity. And the only thing you're going to do is promise yourself you're going to write business. That's it. You're not going to piss anyone off. Nothing bad's going to happen. Someone's going to answer the phone and say, yes, help me, please. Our leads are the best.
Joe, could I ask you, what about text messaging?
I don't text message, right? There are campaigns if you're doing the digital leads. I know they have text drip campaigns and stuff like that, right? I personally don't text anyone. So the only thing I'll text them is a text reminder of the appointment we already booked.
Okay.
Right. The next one is, okay, so I'm putting in the activity and I'm booking appointments. It's really important here to posture yourself of you're booking appointments today or tomorrow. This is a mindset, right? It is insane. Amber, I mean, you're crushing the phones right now, and it's insane of everyone is for tomorrow or today, right? And it's all in your mind. You are the one that needs to posture up and say, hey, I have availability today, right? If you're dialing early today, you can book them for later today in the evening. I like to do tomorrow phone calls, right? So if I'm calling, I'm always booking for tomorrow. Those are my favorite, right? That way it gives them time for both of them to show up. Unless it's really early in the day, I can say, hey, we can meet today at 6 in the evening. And right, I always confirm both of y'all are going to be able to show up, husband or wife. But I always love to give the cable guy, right? Like, because so many times when you're brand new, it's insane, right? We watch the transition happen, right? When a new agent's dialing, David, it's always like, hey, I got 1 for tomorrow, 1 for Friday, and 2 for next week. Always, always. It is just mindset. Because if you look at any one of our dialers, right, that are dialing live, it's, hey, tomorrow at 3 o'clock, that's what I got. And a lot of it is questions, right? Are you asking questions or are you telling them when you're available? So that's a really big one, right? So stay away from stuff like, hey, are you available tomorrow? Right? I ask or I tell and I make statements like, hey, is tomorrow in the morning or evening better for you? Which one of those works? Right? Because probably both of them are inconvenience, but which one works best?
The second one.
You're going to have to sit with me no matter what, right? Like you got to tell me what you're available, right? And we're going to have to fit you in tomorrow, right? And it's just posturing yourself and think of the cable guy, right? Like, in fact, I had a stove delivered to my house and me and James were laughing, right? Because I'm like, hey, like I work. And they're like, hey, we'll deliver Thursday. I'm like, hey, Thursday doesn't work for me, right? I got all my calls. I'm like, I can't do Thursday. And they're like, okay, well, let's do Friday. I'm like, perfect. This is on Wednesday when I'm talking to them. And they're like, okay, well, Friday will work. I'm like, okay, sweet. When can I expect it? And they're like, well, it's going to be, right now it's open. Friday sometime. I'm like, I can't work with that. I need to know specifically. They're like, well, tomorrow, which would have been Thursday, they said, hey, we'll give you a call and we'll give you a window. And I'm like, okay. So Thursday came along, he called me and he's like, yeah, it's going to be between 12 and 5. That was my window, between 12 and 5. They don't care. They're busy, right? And you have to give yourself that same respect. You have to know that whatever window you give them, that's what they're going to pick because that's what you got open, right? So just be very careful at the very beginning to say, hey, I'm available all day tomorrow. What's a good time for you? Is that a good time, right? Like, no, I have tomorrow, right? I'm looking to make an appointment for tomorrow, Thursday, right? Or today's Thursday, right? So tomorrow, Friday, Sam, and I have, is the afternoon or evening better for you? I don't, do you work tomorrow? Yes, I do. I'm like, perfect. What time do you get off of work? I get off at 5. What time are you home by? Like 5:30. I'm like, sweet. So it sounds like you're available at 6 o'clock. They can't tell me no. They told me already they work during the day. They told me they need 30 minutes to get home. I even gave them 30 minutes to kick back. Right. But it's all the posture that I'm telling them when they're going to be available for me. Right. Like it's insane of how we book our appointments now. And it's every hour on the hour. Right. Like you just got to give yourself that posture. Yes, you're going to have the outliers, right? That are, hey, right, I can't do it no matter what, this or that, or you can't fit the husband and wife together, right? Those are going to be exceptions, right? I'm not saying those don't happen. I'm just saying about 90% of your appointments should all be booked on the hour for either today or tomorrow. They're gonna make time to sit with you, right? You just got to make sure they're not at work. Really, that's the only objection is work, right?
And
Or they got to pick up kids or something.
right. And Joe, I would say, and you taught me this, which is don't be afraid, right? We're looking to get a yes or a no. You're saving yourself so much time. If there's someone who can't meet with you, guess what? Probably wasn't that important to them, and you just saved yourself a half hour for another family that really does want this protection. So that was something that Joe taught me that really sticks in my head, which is ultimately, you're weeding these people out to figure out, do they really want this or do they not?
Well, that's a great point because it's beautiful, right? Like once you understand your numbers and you understand our leads, everyone that picks up is not an appointment. Everyone that picks up and doesn't argue with you is not an appointment. Most folks are just polite, right? What does a polite no sound like? Yeah, I can't tomorrow. No, I work late. I work 16-hour days. How many of y'all heard that? Well, I got 2 jobs and I go from one straight to the other, 30-minute break, and I can only drive them. Right? Those are just polite no's, right? Take the no and move on. A great question that and what Sam's talking about, right, is one of my favorite things to say when they push back, like I can't tomorrow, I can't the next day, right? It's like, hey, I just want to make sure, is this important to you? Were you looking to get this coverage? Well, you know what, Joe, I really wasn't. Great. Bye. Right? Like you're just pushing it, right? You're no one said that was an appointment and no one said that was an application. That is one of your no's. Just people are going to pick up and they're going to be polite, right? So what does polite stand for? I'm not available today. No, I'm not available for all the next 2 weeks, right? And you're like, no, this is the one, right? And Sam, right? You're like, well, what if I call you tomorrow and then we'll rebook, and right? It's a no. Right? Like, don't be afraid to get the no. What does that sound like? Is, hey, I just want to make sure I'm not bugging you, Sam, anymore. Is this something that you were still interested? Did you want me to go over with the coverage? You know what? I don't, Sam. I'm like, okay, great. Bye. Right? So like your job is when you get them on the phone is not to get to think about it. Your job is to get a yes or a no. That is your requirement, right? Like Amber Blair's organization, her business, her company requires her to dial like crazy, get a resolution, and when she gets a hold of somebody, tell me yes or no, right? And you gotta filter out those nice think about it, right? Like, oh, I'm just super busy and blah blah. Hey, I just want to make sure I'm not bothering you. Is this something you were even looking into? It wasn't, Joe. I don't even know what this is. Hey, I just want to make sure this is coverage. You pass away, it pays off the house. You get sick, it makes mortgage. Yeah, no, I don't care about that. Thank you. Bye. Right? Like ask and don't be afraid of the no's. Here's a fun fact in case y'all don't know. You're going to get about 90% of the people you talk to is a no. Boom. I didn't know that. Most folks you're going to talk to is no. You're not looking for those. You're actually supposed to just filter through them, right? You're looking for the folks that simply say, yes, I want you to sit with me tomorrow. And when they show up to the appointment, they're the easiest appointment ever, right? And it doesn't matter how bad you sound. They're like, yep, I want that, and that. Let's go ahead and do that. That's what you're looking for. You're not looking to convince anyone. Our leads are phenomenal. They just bought a house. Even if it's a 50-cent lead, they just purchased a house 2 or 3 years ago. It's still fresh. They just purchased. How many A lead users out there get, hey, I just bought my house. Like I haven't even looked at my payments. Like you're gonna have to get back to me. I get that all the time. Guess what? That becomes a CIB, C, D, E. That when you call, they're like, hey, I'm ready. I know what my bills are. I bought furniture. I paid that bill off. And you know what? Man, we never checked that box. Yes, I'm ready. And that's a CID, that's a CIE, whatever it is, right? They are the best leads because life continues to happen. And that's what I love. And you just got to be able to resolve them and get that. What I do is when I'm booking them for tomorrow, I do it every hour, right? And then once I fill that, I just start going every 30 minutes. Okay. Some appointments are a little light, right? They're trying to push you off the phone, and sometimes you don't get to lock those puppies in all the way. I keep a little tag next to it, right? So if that was my 4 o'clock, but I got a 3, 4, 5, 6, that's the first one I'll start booking at the 30-minute mark, right? Because I put a little tag on it and I'm like, likelihood of them showing up is very, very low, right? They were like, yes, 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 call me tomorrow. They didn't let me confirm much, but they're like, hey, I want this. Call me tomorrow, Joe. Me and my wife will be there. Okay, great. Right. But man, they didn't even give me an email or something, right? Whatever it was, I still haven't booked. Right. But that's the first one I'm going to book at the next appointment, right? I'll start booking every 30 minutes. Right. And I just kind of pick and choose. You don't know when they're going to show up. But that's just a little trick that I do. Any questions up until now, right? Activity, I have to resolve my leads. A good number to note is 80% of your leads. So you should be investing in leads every single week. But if you get a batch of leads, whatever number that is, you should resolve 80% of those by Friday. That's how you stay on top of your leads. You must resolve. It is your required, right? Your own business should require that because you invested money and you have to get an ROI on your appointment, on your investment. You should be writing applications every single week if you are investing in leads. But that's why it's important to start at the very beginning on Saturday to fill your Monday, Tuesday. And then, right, you have 3 more days to finish resolving those leads, right? Because they're going to reschedule. They're going to say, you're going to run the appointment. They're going to give you the good old think about it. But by Friday, you should have 80% of your leads resolved. If you do that, man, you are highly profitable, right? Like Amber, we were looking at your at your numbers, right? And you have the activity. So her book rate right now is 63%. Her close rate is 70%. That means she helps 7 families for every 10 sits she has. And then the real phenomenal one is she has 30% close ratio on her leads, right? But she is sitting and just resolving every single week all of her leads, 80% of her leads. Like now it gets to the point, right? And you can track her numbers, right? Because she's posting them. This is what's really cool, and y'all got to fall in love with this. Saturday, Monday, Tuesday, she has her 200 dials, high contact, high book rate, right? But as you get to Wednesday, it becomes, right, less contacts, less books, less contacts, less books, because she's resolving her leads. That's what it should look like, right? So don't be afraid of, man, I don't want to dial Thursday or Wednesday because I've already called them all week. And that's just going to be a waste of $200. It's not. You have to resolve the other few folks, right? Like those few folks this week for Amber was 4 apps for $4,000, right? You are one appointment away. You are one appointment away from making it your week. You just have to give yourself that opportunity to go through the dials and sit, right? Because once they book, it's a level playing field. I don't care if it's a 50-cent lead or a $50 MIA. They said yes, and they show up for the appointment. Nothing changed. They're right. You're gonna help them, and they're gonna say yes. You don't know how much that policy is gonna be, right? So just understand those stats, right? You just need your sits, right? So you can be able to get the numbers. Any questions up until here, right? We're triple dialing 200 or 6 appointments. It's going to vary on the batch of leads. Make sure you never dial more than 60 leads. And then you're booking appointments for today or tomorrow, no matter what. Because anything after that, they're just not going to show up. The show rate goes really low.
I have a question, Joe.
Uh-huh.
What's the good day to buy leads? What's
Any
the best
day.
day? So because they come in every day?
So every day they'll go in there and they'll resort them. Ideally, you want to have your new batch by Saturday morning, right? So start looking Thursday or Friday. Saturday mornings, they should usually be pretty full. They made sure they finished it by Friday. But Saturday morning, you want to have your brand new batch of leads, right? Because Saturday, if you're not running appointments, which normally we're not, I mean, for me, especially when I was working bonus leads and I was a brand new agent, Saturday easily was 400 dial day for me because I'd go through my batch in the morning, go through my batch in the afternoon, and then one more time, and I was still done by 4 or 5. Like my Saturday ended at 4:05, and I went through my batch 3 times, and I was usually around 380, $450 on Saturday. That was pretty typical. But let me tell you, every Monday and Tuesday, I had 10 plus appointments, guaranteed, right? But so the best day, just whenever you need to get re-up in leads, right? Because if you resolve your leads and you're down to your 20% of leads right on Wednesday, go get more leads, right? Like you got to have your stack of leads to be able to dial to. That answer it? I know it's there's not a day, right? So it's just making sure you have 60 leads. Don't ever go under 30. That's for me. That's like my rule of thumb. If I'm like at 25 leads, then you don't have enough leads, right, to get to your 200 dials. So you want to stay between 30 and 60 leads in your batch.
Joe, do you want to touch on, right, how do we define a resolved lead? What does that mean? Is that a hang up? Is that I don't know what you're talking about, call me later, click.
So that's good, right? Like you can only resolve a lead if you had a conversation, right? And in the best script, the E stands for establish why you're calling. That always stood out for me because that's how I knew if I resolved the lead. So a hang up, I didn't establish why I was calling, right? I've called them 500 times. I didn't establish why I was calling, right? Like a lot of folks will say, hey, you know what? If I call them blank, whatever numbers are in their heads, right? They're like, hey, that lead is resolved for me. Not for me, right? And from the number one pound for pound paid producer, which is Omar Diaz in Symmetry, that's not for him either. Just giving you all the stats of him, right? Like he's got a golden pin from Symmetry because he resolved his leads and his ROI is through the roof, right? So for me, it's they have to pick up the phone. And doesn't matter what they say, they let me have the conversation and they heard it clearly. And you know what that sounds like, right? Like they were paying attention. And I got to say, hey, I just want to make sure we're talking about the same coverage. If you were to pass away, this would pay off the home. Or if you were to get sick, it'd help you make mortgage payments. Are we talking about the same coverage? A lot of folks confuse this with homeowners insurance. Yes, Joe, I know what this is. I don't care. I don't want it. Great. Bye. That for me, that is the only way a lead is resolved. If not, right, you're going to get called. You're going to get dialed no matter what. Maybe right this week, maybe a month from now, but you are in my dialer. If you have not given me a yes or a no or booked an appointment, right? Like we're going to talk, right? Like you have to resolve your leads. I think Robin just posted right yesterday. She had some apps, right, and it was from 2 months ago, something like that. Right? She continued to follow up, right? Because they never said no, right? So that's the only way you have a really high ROI. I think, Amber, you're sitting at a 10 times ROI. The magic here is dials. I promise y'all. I know everyone tries to avoid it, but I'm just telling you, 1,000 dials, write this math down. 1,000 divided by 35, and the answer is 28 and a half. If you're full-time and you're not willing to dial 28 and a half hours, as far as I know, a full-time job is 40 to 60 hours, right? Like you gotta just understand those numbers, right? So no one said, why, if you're full-time and I want to make 150,000 here, you got to fall in love with those numbers. Because if you do, Amber dials two. I'm in her tracker right now with her dial amounts. Well, that's insane. I'm jealous. So week one of, I'm going to share your numbers, Amber. Don't get mad. So week one with her dials, and she had a $13,000 week one. She worked 51 and a half hours. That's running appointments, right? 1 hour of running an appointment, 35 dials equal an hour, and 15 minutes for interviews because she also interviewed. So she did 2 interviews for the week. She dialed 1,012 dials, and she sat with, where am I? And she sat with 17 clients. So she worked 51 and a half hours. How many of y'all would work 51 and a half hours for a $13,000 week and get paid over $6,000? That's her numbers. Week 2, she worked 66 and a half hours, dialed 1,500 dials. She had 2 interviews. She sat with 14, wrote 5,300, still made a little over $3,000 for 66 hours. Now she's pushing $12,000 in 2 work weeks. Last week, worked 39, or no, we're in week 3. So right now she has 39 worked hours. She's at 1,000 dials already at 4,300 in premium. So that means she already, it's Wednesday, really, right? End of Wednesday, she's already made $2,500. And she's worked 39 and a half hours. Like, just understand your numbers, right? Because it's all it is. It's activity, I promise you. You got to resolve your leads. She's just willing to get, right? What does that equal? She's invested $2,800, right? She's invested $2,800 and she's written 22,666 for the month. 10 times ROI. 10 times. She's literally at the peak of when you go get a lead sheet, right? It says, hey, you should be around 4 times the return. She's at the top end where it says at the very bottom, hey, elite and top producers are at 10 times ROI on our leads.
I just have a really quick question, so I can write this down.
Yeah.
Amber invested how much?
$2,816.32.
I'm just gonna write 2,000, and then she got
2,800. Let's do.
Okay, 2,800, and then she got in return.
She's at 22,662.
Dang, look at you, girl. Okay, perfect. I just wanted to.
Yeah. And I think it's, what is it? Where am I? 25 applications for the month already. Like the ROI is there. You just got to put in the work and you cannot stop. Some weeks, right? Some weeks are low. It always averages out. I promise you, your activity will always average out. And you become insanely profitable when you decide to resolve your leads and book tomorrow, right? Like in her post, if you look in Band, she always finishes the post with 8 tomorrow, 10 tomorrow, 11 tomorrow, 8 tomorrow, 10 tomorrow, right? That's why I say the bare minimum is $200 or 6 appointments for tomorrow. She called me 4 weeks ago and said, hey, what do I need to do to become an agency owner? I'm like, you need to commit to 10 appointments or more. And it's funny, David and Danelle remember that conversation. I'm like, you just need 10 appointments, no matter what, for tomorrow. You will be insanely impressed of what happens. When David and Danelle did that, it was $22,000 a week. And all they did was commit to 200 plus thousand every single day. And they, no matter what, had 10 appointments booked for tomorrow. Right? Like, you just have to commit to that. And here's the cool part. Get what you want out of Symmetry. That's what I love about Symmetry, right? We're just giving y'all some what's possible numbers, right? If you just need $2,000 for the month, like, go get it, right? Just divide the numbers enough, right, to get where you need to be, and just understand you have to be at that activity, right? But just, it's insane what's possible, right? Christmas, Thanksgiving is coming up. I wish that upon all of y'all, right? You just got to be willing to put in some activity because the results are there. Because everyone, that those 25 people that told Amber yes, she didn't have to struggle with them, right? They were like, yeah, Amber, let's go ahead and do that. Let's do that, and that, right? Though there were not struggles. You just got to uncover the yeses, the easy
It
ones.
really wasn't a struggle. It was, oh yeah, we want to do all 4 of these. Oh, great. What's your date of birth?
Yep. And it's fun, right? Because it becomes like, oh my God, let an appointment not show up, right? Like, her posture's insane, right? Like, we're over here stressing. I hope my 2 appointments for today show up. She's like, man, I hope they don't show up after this one because I have an 8, right? Like, they feel that in the posture, right? Give yourself that ability. One of the biggest things is because she books them for tomorrow, right? You got to have those 6. Because if you have less than 6, right? I've gone through the numbers, right? If you have 6 appointments booked, we know we have a 40 to 50% show rate. That means 3 to maybe 2 appointments show up. And then we have a 50% close rate. So at a 50% close rate, maybe 1 shows up and they say yes. If I have less than 6 appointments, I don't even have 1 to say yes to. Right? So you have to give yourself that number. Now, the cool part is if you're part-time, stretch that out, right? Because then you want 6 booked or more, or 6 sits, right, for the week, and then you'll have your numbers. Also, a really good rule of thumb. Watch, so my number is I've sat with 5 this week, right? And I was laughing with James. I'm like, man, me and James and Amber were in the room last night. And I'm like, man, I don't have an app. I'm like, she's like, how many sits you got? I go, I got 5. She goes, you know the rule, it's 4 to 6 sits, and then you can have an app. And I'm like, Nate, damn it. Right? Like, how much y'all want to bet in the next sit or 2, I write an app and you'll see me post it. Like, you can't run away from the numbers, right? Like, just fall in love with them, and you can increase them in as much as you want, right? This is uncapped income at its finest. Tracy?
Yeah, Joe, I just had a question related to this. As far as preparing for the appointment to be successful, something as a new agent that I've found a little difficult.
Oh, I think she fell off. We'll get back to her if she comes back. So the next part, right, will be ready to pivot, be ready for your appointment. Oh, it's sad. That's what she was going to ask, I think. It's preparing for your appointment. Don't do this by yourself. I can't say that enough.
I'm here.
There you are. What was your question?
I was trying to watch it on 2 different screens, and for some reason it kicked me off.
You're good.
Multitasking. So my question was preparing for the appointment, something that I have found a little bit overwhelming as a new writer in preparing for that appointment to be successful in that appointment is the underwriting component. And I guess to summarize my question, how do you get really proficient and really good at that? Because I feel like right now I'm looking at 1,000 different possible options. Even when I'm looking at like the underwriting made simple sheet, it still feels like a lot to absorb and try to figure out who to put where and what would be best.
Yep.
Do you have any advice for
that's actually our next segment, right? So y'all write these
I'm
names
on
down.
topic.
Perfect. So y'all write these names down. It is agency specific because, right, folks are trying to hit contests and win some stuff. So ask your agency owner what order they want, right? But the order I do is, if I have a client, the first company and the only company I want to look at is Americo. Can I write business with Americo? I can't write business with them or they get declined. My next company is going to be Mutual of Omaha. I can't do that one. My next one is SBLI. If I can't do that, the next one is AmAm. And if all else fails, we can get them some guaranteed issue with good old AIG or Corebridge, right? Whatever it's called now. So Tracy, when hey, I need to help a family, you should write. Yes, there. You imagine so many people qualify for all the policies from everyone, right? So keep it super simple. There's only one term policy that we need to use with Americo, and that's the one you should focus on. If we're doing equity protection, it should be Eagle Select now. Right. And that's the family, right? That's the way you want to posture yourself. And then you always, if they're 70 or below, should be accidental. So then it's no longer of which one do I use? Do I make sure they got to qualify for all these? If you follow your order, and again, right, I want to say this clearly, every agency owner, right? So if you're in somebody else's, the Gillum agency, right? The Cook base, wherever you're at, right? They may have a different order, get with them. But follow that order, and then you never have to find out, hey, there's so many different carriers. So what you want to do, a couple of things. Don't do this by yourself. There's too many people. There's too many Ambers out there. There's too many Danelles, right? There's too many Roberts. There's too many Nate. Like, there's a ton of agents, the Gillums, right? The Bridgets and the Connie Hunter. They're killing it, helping a ton of families. Why are you trying to figure this out by yourself? Okay. That's why if I have a brand new agent, I tell them, hey, book your appointments for tomorrow. It's your responsibility to call me later today or tomorrow morning and tell me who you need and tell me what you have booked for tomorrow, and let's prep. Why it's so important tonight or tomorrow morning for your appointments for tomorrow, you got to give yourself time to go find out what these policies are, because we're not going to do it for you. We're going to say, hey, which one do you think? If we're using America, they're going to say, hey, more than likely I got to do term 125, right? Or Eagle Select, and I'll do the accidental. Great. Put those quotes together and show them to me. I taught them how to do it. They showed me. I confirmed that's exactly what they should be showing, right? Now they can go prep. If they've never used Eagle Select, that gives them time to go into the carrier site and go, do not practice the first app on a client, right? Like you have too much time on your day to be doing an app for the very first time on your client. You should go practice with it, right? You can go in there and any carrier, you can go into any app and just write a fake app, right? Americo has a demo, which is super cool, but every other one, you can go put in fake information and you can go through the whole thing, right? Just don't submit it, right? Practice and make sure you know how to do that. Also, right, you're a professional. Guess what's going to happen? They're not always going to be perfect appointments. You're going to have to pivot. They're going to get declined. You're going to uncover they don't need the house paid off because they're going to sell it if somebody passes away. So you don't need the full mortgage payoff. You only need a couple of months worth of payments, right? Or you're going to write the app and, oh my God, Amber, I can't believe they lied to me. They got on blood thinners at the very end, right? Like it's going to happen something, right? They're going to get declined. Write this down, okay? I will never get off of an appointment until I help that family. That is the promise you made when you booked the appointment. I'm going to show you some options. And when you did your role and purpose, you told them, we're going to go over your health conditions. We're going to go over your budget. I'm going to show you some options and we're going to find the best options for you. And I'm going to write that application.
Sorry, can you repeat? I will never get off, and then
Never going to get off the appointment until I help the client.
Thank
Right?
you.
So application is submitted and approved, right? Because you're going to write an application and they're going to get declined. Absolutely normal. No big deal.
Thank
Right?
you.
You don't freak out. You just say, hey, great. Looks like, right? And then you keep going. You right. If you're filling out 4 applications, one gets declined, do not stop there. Continue to fill out the other 3 applications, get those puppies locked in. And then you go back and say, hey, looks like this one, Robert, didn't take you. No big deal. We're going to go ahead and go with this next carrier. It's $2 difference. Great. Yep. Perfect. Email's already being sent with signature. I don't know how to pivot because I'm a brand new agent.
I think it's sorry, Joe. I think it's important not to ask permission to pivot. You're not asking. They've already said, yes, they want this. You just pivot.
Yep.
Sorry.
It's not, no, that's great, right? Because it's not an option, right? Hey, this one didn't, I'm not, listen, right? I'm not asking questions. Hey, this one didn't take. Our next option to know is going to be Mutual of Omaha, right? Because Eagle Select didn't like you. And we're going to go ahead and do this one and it's $4 more. And they're like, great, sure. I'm like, hey, just give me that 6-digit code back, whatever it is, right? Like you are in control. Now, hey, I'm a brand new agent. I don't know how to pivot, right? Or something came up. They love for you to help, right? We call the fireman because that dude writes apps. Nate, let me tell you, if my phone is ringing after 4 p.m., it's Nate in an appointment every single day. And Nate, any tips? You're right. Like you literally call me or James every single appointment, almost no matter what.
I was going to say, I actually called James now, but I didn't want to hurt your feelings. No, it's just, it always comes at the end. It's been a hard week, this or that. It happens so many times, you and me. Hey, Joe, I'm having kind of a rough week. What can I do? Don't worry about it. Run the apps. It's that last one at 8:30 on Friday. You're like, please don't show up. Please don't show up. And they show up and you're like, dang it. And you know what? Boom. You just made $2,000. Went from 0 to 2,000 real quickly. So.
And then you're really good at stopping in the middle of your appointment, right? Again, do not get off the appointment. You write that app no matter what. I mean, Nate, right? You get declined. You call us every single decline, I think, right? Like, what do you tell the client? And then how do you call it?
Because it's so easy. It is so easy. It's the easiest thing you ever do. You say, hey, you know what? Make up whatever excuse you want, right? Hey, I just want to make sure to reach out to the insurance company. There's a couple of things here I want to see how they'll handle. That's a good one to use all the time. Can you mind if I mute you for 2 minutes? Oh yeah, no problem. Great, go for it. Mute them on Zoom. Call Joe, call James. Hey, they told me this. I'm kind of getting a shaky feeling, or I'm not quite sure what to go next. They had this weird medication I've never hit before. Yeah, okay, let me look this up for you. Do this, this, and this. All right. Thanks, guys. Get off the phone with them. Unmute yourself with the client. Hey, just got off the phone. It looks like we're best going to go in this direction, and you start down that path. It's the easiest thing. It can be for anything.
Everybody, and they love it, right? Don't they love that you stopped and called somebody for help?
Yeah. And it could be because I feel that they're a little shaky. It could be like I'm not sure what product to go to next. It's for any reason whatsoever. Do it.
You're in control, right? Again, something happens in the appointment. It's so easy. Hey, hold on. I'm going to mute you. You're telling them what's going to happen, right? He doesn't ask for permission. He goes, hey, you know what? I'm going through the process. I need to find out if this is going to be the best carrier for you. I'm going to talk to my manager. Hey, hold on really quick. Where he's not asking him. He just puts him on mute, calls us, gets the answer he needs, and then he writes apps, right? Like, do not get off an appointment. There's too many of us. Now, the only thing right? Give your upline the opportunity to help you. So if you're running an appointment and your upline doesn't know, that is your fault. That is not your upline's fault. It is not your upline's fault they didn't answer, because if you told me on Thursday in the evening or you didn't tell me, better yet, and you called me around 7 p.m., I'm probably eating dinner on date night with my wife, I'm not going to pick up the phone. And I'm not going to feel bad about it, right? Because I didn't know you were running an appointment. Because if you had called me and said, hey, Joe, I have a 6:30, I'm going to be like, hey, great, it's date night for me. Here's James's number, Amber's number, and Nate's number. There's going to be 3 people waiting for you to call them to help you in your appointment. You got to stop trying to run appointments, right? And here, I'm going to be vulnerable. I used to do that. Do you know why I didn't tell my upline I didn't have an appointment? Because I was embarrassed. If I didn't sell it, I didn't want to feel bad. So talk about ego, right? So I'm going to hurt you a little because it's your ego that's probably not telling your upline you're running an appointment, because if you don't sell it, you don't want to have to tell them, right? Give your upline the opportunity to help you, because if you sit with them, we should all be at a 70 to 80% close rate, because it's all of us running appointments together. You have all of us as underwriters. You have all of us to help you show the options. We are the biggest team, the fastest growing agency in Symmetry, because we work together, right? So allow your upline to help you, right? Tell them when your appointments are, allow them to help you prep, show them what you're going to show, right? If you have any questionable stuff, like we're already pivoting, like David, you asked, like, hey, let's be ready for pivot. Sometimes we're already ready to pivot, because they said, hey, the heart attack was right at 19 months or 24 months, but like, hey, we're going to try this. And if that doesn't work, you're going to pivot to this. We can already give you the pivot so many times so that, guess what? You don't freak out, right? You're going to run it. Oh, that one didn't take, right? Because if you did it with Eagle Select and all of a sudden it tries to tell you to go grade it, we're going to say nope. So if it tells you that, you're going to go Living Promise. That one has the graded policy that you want to use, right? Like we're prepping you, right? So allow us, again, to be your help, right? And give us the time to, again, help you prep for your appointments. And
kind of with that
answer
too,
a lot of your
Joe.
questions, right? Go
If
ahead.
I can add on to that too, right? Allow your upline to help you, but don't expect them to be ready to help you when they don't know you have an appointment right then and there.
Yep. Can't say that enough. You got to tell us when you're running an appointment so we can prep you, so that we can tell you, right? Like, hey, I'm running appointments too at that time. So if you have at 6 o'clock, I have a 6 o'clock, I don't answer, right? Because maybe mine doesn't show up, I'll answer. But if I don't answer, right, again, call Jane, right? We'll give you who to call next so that they can help you prep right in the appointment. But man, do not get off an appointment. I don't think at this point any of us ever get off an appointment unless we took a nap, right? And then you'll get the good old think about it, right? That means you did a perfect appointment. Again, not everyone's going to say yes instantly. I can't say this enough. You still need to get a no. Okay. So think about it could just be a very polite no, right? Don't be scared to get your no, right? So many times we're going to let them book us for next week or tell us they need to think about it. Hey, Nathan, I know you said you want to think about it. I just want to make sure, is this something right now that I've gone through the whole thing? Is this something that you and Mary want to take care of? You know what? No, I don't see the value in it. Great. Bye. Right? Or yes, I do. We really want this. I like that, but I don't do it right now, whatever. Right? Okay, great. What time do I call you tomorrow? You want to do same time? I tell them when our next appointment is. Because everyone, if you say, hey, when do you want to get back? When do you want me to get back to you? Give me a couple of days, next week, next month. Call me in January 5th.